this point, there can be no question that the official flight path is a farce. The damage to the Pentagon could not have been what it was had the plane been where these three separate individuals all say that it was. Of course, they are human and made mistakes about things they remember, and may have misspoke or deduced some things in the past. But one thing they have in common is the fact that all three are 100% certain the plane flew on the north side of the station. Sergeant Legacy would even bet his life on it. Edward Pake's account corroborates Sergeant Brooks' account and connects the flight path to him perfectly. There is no ambiguity or possibility of perception issues in their claim whatsoever. Their vantage point makes it as simple as distinguishing between black and white. Their testimony is quadruple corroborated evidence that the light poles were not hit by the plane. It would be physically impossible if what they saw was reality. As simple as it is, this testimony alone is enough to prove that 9/11 was an inside job. But naturally, people will still have questions. Like, what about the cab driver that supposedly got hit by a light pole while driving south on Route 27? LLOYDE England was allegedly headed south on Route 27 when the windshield of his cab was allegedly speared by a light pole, originally 40 feet long and 247 pounds, that was clipped by Flight 77 on its way to hit the Pentagon. He says he then locked his brakes, came to a stop, and got help from a stranger removing the over 30-foot-long base of the pole from the windshield of his cab. He also claims he fell down in the process. The problem is that LLOYDE and the light pole were located in a position on the highway that isn't anywhere near where the witnesses we spoke with placed the plane. Only poles 1 or 2 could have hit LLOYDE's cab, and this is impossible because the plane, based on where the witnesses place it, could not have hit poles 1 or 2. Not to mention the fact that despite the pole having had to be removed from the windshield after the car stopped, and the fact that the severed pole was still well over 20 feet long and quite heavy, LLOYDE's hood remained unscratched. After looking at all these pictures of LLOYDE's car and the pole next to it, I simply could not believe the story. And the story was repeated with changing details. For example, in his original account, he told the Survivor Fund Project that after he was hit by the light pole, he stopped his car and got out, received help from a stranger, and started removing the pole, but fell down with the pole on top of him after turning to see an explosion. Yet, in our interview with LLOYDE, he makes no mention of hearing or seeing an explosion, and claims he fell down because the curved part of the pole caused him to drop it on himself. Here is an excerpt from the Survivor Fund Project article.
As he approached the Navy Annex, he saw a plane flying dangerously low overhead. Simultaneously, the plane struck a light pole, and the pole came crashing down onto the front of LLOYDE's taxicab, destroying the windshield in front of his eyes. Glass was everywhere as he tried to stop the car. Another car stopped, and the driver helped move the heavy pole off LLOYDE's car. As they were moving the pole, they heard a big boom and turned to see an explosion. The light pole fell on LLOYDE, and he struggled to get up from underneath, wondering what had happened.
Some researchers maintain that it is impossible for LLOYDE to get hit by the light pole, stop his car and get out, receive help from a stranger, and start removing the pole all before the plane makes impact with the building a few hundred feet away. This is obviously impossible at the 530 miles per hour that the plane has officially been reported as traveling. Proponents of the official story maintain that the author of the Survivor Fund Project article was not referring to the impact of the plane, but a secondary explosion that happens after the alleged impact. LLOYDE had never again referred to explosions, secondary or otherwise. As you can see in this photo, you'll notice a scratch in the ground indicating the pole was moved. It was also hotly debated by researchers that perhaps LLOYDE meant it was a much smaller piece of the top arm of the pole and that it landed inside the car rather than on the hood. But from day one, he's been stating that it was the large piece of the pole, as illustrated again in this NBC interview.
The plane was so low, it hit the pole. When it hit the pole, it knocked the light part off, and nothing came through the pole to the car but the pole itself.
The light pole shaft speared its way through England's cab, pushing the passenger side of his seat backwards into the rear of the car. A few feet to the right, and England would have been crushed.
I had to wrestle with the car to stop it. And when I did stop the car, there was no noise.
We didn't want to leave this issue up for debate or rely on media reports. We decided to pay Lloyd a visit to clear this up once and for all. Here are some audio excerpts from the pre-interview in his living room, where he confidently asserts it was the long base of the pole that pierced his windshield.
There's this piece, but let's look at this picture and see there's a piece here, a piece here, and a piece back here.
The lamp was knocked off the pole.
Right, here's the lamp.
See,
And then, so which piece did you take out of the window?
the long piece, the part went from the ground, it was knocked off the ground.
Wow.
So, okay.
It went all the way through the car into the back seat. It was still sticking out across the hood.
You lift that out yourself?
I had to help a friend of mine.
Okay.
pick it up.
In front of your help?
Yeah.
So,
This is the long piece. Wait a minute, unless you see, this is the long piece. See the end on it?
That was sticking out the back.
Show them the end.
It doesn't have an end on
This end right here?
Yeah, this is the piece that was on the ground.
Right? And that was in your cab? Or sticking out the cab?
It went through. It went through. This is the part that went through. The bent part.
Wow.
Lloyd's wife was kind enough to share with us these personal photos of the cab after they just got it back the next day, September 12th. Notice the pristine hood of the car. Notice the unripped passenger seat. Notice Lloyd's eclectic reading tastes on the day of 9/11. Lloyd then proceeded to tell us his entire story for the camera.
My name is LLOYDE England. I live in Arlington County. At 9/11, I was driving my car on my way home, and this airplane flew over top of my car. It was real close, and I just looked at it. When I looked at it flying over, glass, a loud noise happened, and the pole came through the dashboard, right through the car, all the way to the rear. And I stopped the car in the middle of the street. It didn't stop straight, it stopped at an angle. And a car was coming, well, I guess you call it more or less a van. And I asked the guy, would he help me get the pole out? So he stopped, he never said a word. I said, man, it's mighty quiet. It's so quiet. And he never said a word. He helped me get the pole out. The pole happened to be bent. When we pulled the pole out, and the pole was bent, and the bent part took me down to the ground. I fell down on my back, but I held the pole up and laid the pole down, and he got in his van and went on down the road. So I looked across to my right, to my left actually, that's where it was, and there's a hole and fire coming out of the Pentagon. Around about this time, a fire truck came from around the end, and he came up, and there were people on my left side. There was rush hour traffic at that time of morning, and they were more or less congested. People, I mean, all this happened right there where they were, because there was an explosion that happened, and rocks and stuff flew out, and they were there at that particular time. They were there in the midst of it. And I'm across the street. There's a barrier down the road that divides the lane from going from south to north. I guess at that point it's going from east to west. But anyhow, on Route 27, at that particular point, we were going. Leaving. I'm in Virginia, going toward Richmond. They're going toward D.C. I think they were going west
And I'm going, how can that be? You know, yeah, I was headed south, I was. And there was a lot of confusion at that particular point, but at that time, everything more or less at a halt. So I looked at the Pentagon, and there was no debris left. I mean, if a plane, I'm wondering now, what happened to the airplane? There's a hole in the building, but the hole is not big as the airplane. The tail section would be taller than the hole. The wing spread, I mean the wings, man, the big engines underneath each wing. Nothing was left out of the plane. I mean, how's a plane gonna completely go into a building and nothing be left out? I mean, I'm just looking. By this time, the Arlington County Police arrived on motorcycles. And one police came over because there were people stopped in the meantime telling me they were FBI agents, but they were on their way to work to stay here with the car because the car was part of the accident, you know, and I'm getting ready to stay. So I tried to start the car wouldn't start, so I'm more or less here stuck with my car in the middle of the road. So the police came across the barricade and said everybody had to leave. There's going to be another plane coming. And I'm saying, well, you know, I'm just trying to stay here with the car. So I wouldn't move. So he actually pushed me down, you know. So I got up, went to the car, got my ID card out. I think that's all I got out.
Were you, after this, ever interviewed by the FBI or any law enforcement agents?
The FBI interviewed me because my wife worked for the FBI. So they were talking about the fact that they couldn't find me. And she said, well, you can't find him. She said, I see him every day. So once she told them where I was, they were over here in the aisle.
Did you hear the impact or the explosion at the Pentagon?
I think I did. I mean, you know, it's been quite a while ago, and I think I did because I think rocks flew out, and the rocks flew out over the cars and the people that were across the street from me.
Rock as in parts of the building?
Yeah,
limestone?
yeah, but there wasn't a big hole.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's big enough hole for me to drive my truck through, but it wasn't big enough hole for that plane to go in. I mean, unless something happened that I'm not familiar with, that I don't understand about physics, plane couldn't go in that hole.
At what point did you feel the rocks or the explosion? Was it after you had stopped the cab?
Yeah.
After you got out of it?
It had to be.
It was after?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I was right there.
When the aircraft went over, did the explosion occur while you were stopping the cab or after you stopped the cab?
I'm busy at the time trying to deal with the car.
Right.
I didn't see the plane hit the Pentagon. I wondered where the plane went. It was quiet. I mean, it was quiet. And I wonder why is it so quiet? But there's some things I don't have the answer to.
Once you had gotten outside of your car and then removed the pole, during the time you were standing there, did you hear any other explosions?
Not that I can recall.
And to clarify, it was the large piece of the base of
It's a large, the large piece that was sticking out across the hood.
Wow.
The car was very similar to this. It's a 90 Lincoln. This is a 95. So it's very similar. It's different, but it's very similar. And the pole came right on through to the back seat. If anybody had been sitting in the back, sitting in the front on the right side, the pole would have went through them.
Sure. And it actually was laying on your head then?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But there are no scratches on the hood. I mean, if you looked at the car, to look at the outside damage, you don't see nothing but the windshield. But once you enter into the car, then it's a whole difference. I mean, it's a world of difference. I mean, it's a world of difference.
So, but kind of what I want to do is just reenact the removing of the pole. So the pole is through here, through the front seat, and into the back seat, the curved part.
That's right.
So the curved part comes up through here.
The
straight part is out like this.
I don't know. No, it's down it's down this way. It's the car.
Like
it's the car that held it up.
Okay.
The interior of the car that held it up.
The interior. So it was,
the dashboard held it up
against the board.
Yeah.
So it had to be. Was it resting on the hood or was it?
I can't say. I don't know, but it was out here.
Okay. So the base is out here.
Right.
So then the man pulls up in the white van-like vehicle.
Right.
Okay. So he doesn't speak a word.
He doesn't say a thing.
But you asked him if he can help you.
Right.
So did which side of the vehicle did he come around?
Well, we came about in the car and we grabbed the pole.
So I'm going to move over here. So now I'm the guy that's helping you. Where did you go? How did you guys pull the pole out? So it's coming out this way. Which side was he on? Which side were you on?
I don't remember.
You don't remember?
I don't remember. But I know we pulled.
Where did you fall down?
We took the pole out.
Okay.
And the bent part went to the bottom.
Oh, so it flipped?
Yeah.
The bent part? Okay.
Yeah. And it took me down.
So you tumbled backwards this way?
I fell back. Yeah, I fell back. I fell back with the pole in my hand.
Okay. And then once the pole was taken out, so he must have brought his end out this way and you were pushed over this way?
Could have. I don't quite remember. Because
okay. When you fell down, did he come over and help you up, out from under the pole?
Not that I can recall.
Okay. Did the pole ever get drug or moved by him? Did he move it from where it was further towards the curb?
Maybe so. You know, I don't.
That part's sketchy.
So many things were happening at the time.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to get my car to the point where I can move it. That my mind is going from one thing to another. This is just a process of getting to this point. And I do remember falling, and I remember laying the pole down, but the rest is gone.
So he moved the heavy end, and you had the smaller end, the bent end?
I don't remember.
Okay. All right.
Don't even know.
Great.
Just out of curiosity, Lloyd, how long were you a cab driver before 9/11?
Well, I've been driving a cab since '59.
When it hit you, you were in the middle of the bridge, right?
No, I wasn't on the bridge.
Well, it's an overpass.
No, I wasn't on the overpass. I was on flat ground.
Yeah, it's an overpass.
No.
Where there's two light poles around.
No, light poles.
Below you?
No, the light poles were poles like that pole, but they were aluminum poles, and they bolted to the base. But it was solid ground.
Isn't it interesting how Lloyd's story supports the official flight path while being irreconcilable with the eyewitness flight path? Yet he seems to support conspiracy theories by questioning what happened to the plane, and he reads David Icke books to boot. He must be on our side, right? Lloyd's story doesn't even hold up to scrutiny by itself, but is a proven farce in light of the testimony from Robert Tercios, Chadwick Brooks, and William Legacy. It is physically impossible for them to be simultaneously true. In essence, it boils down to this. You cannot believe the official story and these three witnesses at the same time. It's frighteningly simple, but if Robert, Chadwick, and William are accepted as telling the truth, 9/11 has been proven to be an inside job. This should be enough information to shake the foundations of everything you have accepted as true about 9/11. But this was a very complex operation, and we have more information to cover.